Given the not so great political outlook for 3D printers here in the United States, I decided it was time to go ahead, pull the trigger, and purchase a replacement for my about 8-year-old Ultimaker 3, and I chose one of the relatively new Prusa Core One Plus printers. And here it is, printing off one of my Fractured Colony gaming miniatures. I figured today I would kind of talk a little bit about the build process. I did get the kit version of it, and share some of the things that I thought went well with it, some little tips and tricks and stuff like that to help you out if you choose to build your own Prusa Core One Plus printer. First up, when it comes to the tools for the 3D printer, it actually came with a lot of decent tools. Prusa's pretty good about that. Got some Allen keys, got some screwdriver-like things, pliers, some wrenches. They work. Obviously, if you have better tools, there's better options, but they do work. Now, the one thing that I would highly recommend having that's obviously not provided in the kit is some sort of work flashlight that can stand on its own, so you can use both hands to assemble the printer while being able to illuminate whatever you need to. This is especially helpful once you got the entire printer together and you may need to go back and fix some things that you screwed up earlier in the process. You'll figure out why that's important later on. When it comes to the assembly instructions themselves, it's actually very well laid out. Now, there's a lot of steps to it. You're looking at the front page of the assembly manual for the printer, and it's got maybe 9 big sections. All told, there's probably about 500 pages of steps, and each page has, maybe a half a dozen little things you have to do, and you should pay attention to those very closely because that way you don't make mistakes. Now, I didn't exactly time myself to assemble the printer. I probably should have done that, but I want to take it at a bit more of a casual pace. I would estimate probably around 12 hours to assemble this printer. It is basically a giant electronics project, so nothing is really that hard with the assembly process, but it can be a bit detail-oriented in a few parts, and let's talk about some of the more frustrating parts of the build right now. One thing you may want to have, at least for the early part of the build here, this is basically like step 1 or 2 when it's completed, is I do recommend some safety glasses. Because you can see you have these 3 Z-axis rods sticking up here, which are the things that raise and lower the print bed, and you do kind of have to look straight down to attach these motor mounts here, and you don't want to poke your eye out. I know it sounds kind of silly, but you kind of can almost accidentally do that if you're not being careful when you have 3 thin metal rods sticking up. Now, in all honesty, there's only a few parts of the build that I actually thought were kind of annoying and frustrating. Most of the steps were fantastic. Now, on the topic of the Z-axis things, when it comes to this piece right here, which is a spacer that goes on the back Z-axis rod to attach the heat bed so that I can kind of climb up and down the rod, it's one of those situations where you kind of have to do a blind screw insert and hopefully things go in the right spot. And because of that, this thing interfaces also with a cable back there. So this is when you actually attach this piece on the printer, it is a bit of a frustrating step. So I don't have a good solution to you because you can't really see what you're doing because it's in the far back of the printer. Now, prior to this printer, I actually don't own any other Prusa filament-based printers, but I am quite familiar with the Prusa Mark III's. My friend had one of those and I fixed it on a number of occasions, so I've had a lot of experience with that particular model of printer. And one of the things that Prusa did with this build that was awesome was they changed how the print bed attaches to basically the thing that moves the print bed around. This here are the instructions from the Core One Plus, but if you remember on the Mark III's and similar model printers, you would have like these 9 little spacers that would sit here, and you had to then try to put the print bed on top of that and screw everything together while not having the spacers fall out, which was an absolute nightmare. What they did with the Core One Plus is now these little block things actually screw down to the base, so there's no more trying to line up these spacers. It's a much better way to attach the print bed and a lot less frustrating. So this is one area where Prusa definitely improved their printer design. This is one of 2 steps that caused me the most trouble, partially because I kind of screwed some things up in a little bit. But when it comes to attaching the printer belts that drive the print head around, you have to kind of line them up through these little spots here and then kind of pull them through. And one little trick that I found is that, so this piece right here that you're seeing in instructions, the side that's facing you is going to end up being smashed up against a piece on the gantry. And when that happens, you want to make sure that the teeth on the side of the belt that's kind of pulled through here, they're going to lock up against the teeth that are on the part of the belt that connects to all the drive systems. And that locking of the teeth will go ahead and help the belt stay in place, because if that doesn't happen, it can be very easy to accidentally pull these belts out during the belt tensioning process, and you're gonna have to go back and fix that. And I had to do that like 3 or 4 times, so I got quite familiar with how to field strip the neck extruder, which is the extruder system here on this printer, in a fairly short amount of time. Then another little screwball thing that happened to me was this piece right here is part of the filament sensor. So there's a system in this printer that can detect if the filament is no longer being fed into the printer. And it has this mechanical clamp switch thing going on here. And it uses 2 magnets to pull the piece apart. Now, one of the first problems I had when it came to these little magnets, one of them was broken, and of course whoever makes the magnets hasn't discovered magnetic single pole things yet, because that doesn't exist as far as we know. And therefore I had 2 smaller magnets instead of 1 big magnet. Fortunately, it wasn't that big of an issue, and I was able to go ahead and actually just use a smaller magnet here, and it had enough repulsive force to keep the switch open. Just a funny little thing that happened to me. And then another issue I ran into, you can see with the magnet over here that's on the lever arm, it's sticking out a little bit. You may want to push that in just a bit more than what you see here. And also when it comes to the part where you go ahead and actually tighten down the top of this filament sensor after it's fully assembled, you may not want to really torque that thing down. I did it, and what happened was it made it impossible for this whole mechanism to actually move, and I wasn't able to load the filament the first time I tried to do a test print, or first time during the calibration process. So just kind of go a little bit easy when it comes to putting the lid on the filament sensor. Just make sure it's secure but not overly tight. Now let me go back to the video I showed earlier of the printer actually in operation here. And one of the other parts that I screwed up was belt tensioning, because of course you got an upper belt and a lower belt, and these got to be tightened to a certain way so that the printer can function properly. But the thing that I did not quite fully understand, we have this gantry right here that moves back and forth to move the print head. You need to make sure that before you actually really start doing the tensioning process, that this gantry is perfectly aligned, and I mean perfectly aligned. So you need to be able to manually, when the printer is off, go ahead and push it up against the very front of the printer, and that when you tap on either side of this gantry when it's up against the printer, that neither side rocks. You may need to tension the belts a little bit to get it in this state, but if one side is up against the front of the printer and the other one is not, do not try to fix that by tightening and tensioning the belts. That is the wrong way to do it. There is a set of detailed instructions Prusa gives, and one of those things that I misunderstood. Actually, what you have to do is take this gantry you see right here. You're going to hold on to it and twist it with your hands. It seems kind of violent and vicious, but apparently what you do is you kind of twist it in the direction that is not in contact with the front of the printer, and that must cause some belts to skip a little bit, and it will straighten things out. And eventually you go back and forth doing that enough times, and you will end up with a situation where the gantry can fully rest up against the front of the printer with equal tension on the 2 belt tensioners that are in the front. If you try to go ahead and get this gantry to be aligned by tensioning the 2 tensioners in the front by different levels, you will likely fail during the process where it calibrates home, and that's going to cause some headaches. It's not going to be obviously clear that's what's going on. It's just going to say calibration to home failed, and then you got to figure out what's going on. And one more really awesome thing that Prusa did compared to the Mark III's, you're looking at a Mark III's control screen right here, is if you remember, there used to be this step called the adjusting Z, where you had to sit there and try to figure out the exact height where the nozzle had to be off the print bed to get a nice perfect line of filament laid down. It was a bit fiddly, and really kind of annoying. This step is all gone from the Core One Plus. It uses a different system for measuring the distance to the bed, and you don't got to worry about this stupid thing at all. And frankly, once I got past all the calibration tests of the Prusa Core One Plus, it actually printed correctly on its very first print. I've got some of my Fractured Colony miniatures over at fracturedcolony.com right here. I was amazed this thing actually printed correctly on its first print. I've never had a filament-based 3D printer do that, but to be honest with you, it's been 8 years since I bought one, so clearly they're a bit more advanced than even the Ultimaker 3 was way back in the day, which I'm pretty sure did not print correctly on its very first print. Now, to be fair, this printer did fail on its second print, but one of the things you got to be careful of is on this right side where the filament spool is, you really want to make sure that the filament does not want to jump off the spool. When the roll is nearly full, the filament's going to want to do that. If it does, you do risk snapping the filament, and that's what happened on the second print, but I got that squared away. And the third print, which was the video you've been watching this entire time, that worked perfectly fine. So I did a little bit of early testing here. I obviously don't have enough experience with this printer to give it a nice full review, but it's off to a fantastic start. And with these little models I just put away here for whatever particular reason, when compared to my Ultimaker 3, the Prusa Core One Plus takes a little more than half the print time. So this piece you see right here would have been about 2 hours for ideal settings on the Ultimaker. It took around 75-80 minutes on the Prusa Core One Plus. Now that was using the default Prusa Mint settings. You can crank those up a bit further. I did try that for the video you saw there. Now I think I increased the print speed by about 50% or so, maybe was it 33 to 50%, something like that, where I think 300 millimeters per second was the fastest speed. With a small model like this, there wasn't a huge print savings. It went from about 75 minutes to about 65-70 minutes to print this model. And that makes sense given how these print heads work. They essentially start with the zero velocity at a corner, they accelerate up to the max speed, and then they have to decelerate before they hit the next corner, and they do that to basically maintain print quality. So in a small detailed print like this where you don't have a lot of long straight lines, you're not going to see a huge savings in the print time as compared to something like the Pitbull back here or the Sky Guardian, which has a much larger piece with longer lines. I bet I would see a much bigger time savings with those guys crank up the speed. And I'll report on that later when I get some more experience with this particular printer. So why did I go ahead with the Prusa Core One Plus when there are very capable Chinese printers like the Snapmaker U1, which I believe has a 4-tool changer built into it, and its price is like $850, whereas the Prusa Core One with this Index 8 tool and shipping is over $2,000. And it really comes down to this whole fiasco we're seeing here in the United States with increasing legislation to try to lock down 3D printers. Now, Prusa's printers are fully open source as opposed to these Chinese printers that currently exist in the market, which may or may not be open source. Some of them are getting in trouble with violating open source licensing and all that kind of stuff. So the reason why I want that is as this new legislation mandates certain features for blocking certain types of prints end up in printers, I don't want those. So I've already gone ahead and actually made copies of the Prusa firmware that's on this printer as it currently stands, as well as a copy of Prusa Slicer just in case Prusa ever caves to these particular demands. But the fact being that it's open source, I'm never beholden to the printer manufacturer when it comes to being forced to add this spyware to my printers. Because when you think about it, when it comes to the Chinese printers, I talked about this before, there is a chance that some of them will basically tell these states like New York, soon to be California, possibly Delaware, to go screw off. They're never going to install this particular type of spyware in their printers, but at the same time, blocking the manufacture of firearms with 3D printers, well, that's kind of in line with the goals of the Chinese Communist Party. So it's entirely possible that many of these closed and semi-closed source 3D printers from China will go ahead and completely play ball with these states because it's a bit of a communist type rule that they want to put on these 3D printers. Or at least, I was going to say authoritarian type rule, but by definition, communism is authoritarianism, and authoritarianism in all its forms is bad and stupid. So with that, thank you guys all for watching. I'm Jason, the creator of the Tabletop Battlefield, and as I've mentioned several times, Fractured Colony Miniatures over at fracturedcolony.com, which are a line of 3D printable near-future science fiction gaming miniatures. So with that, I'll see you guys all next time.